there are two divorces. There's the emotional divorce, and then there's the legal divorce. And you have to go through the emotional divorce, the emotional disconnecting, which takes in all the self-reflection, all the analysis, all the grief points, acceptance and forgiveness.
Hi, and welcome to Don't Drink to Feed podcast. This podcast is all about you and all the courageous, driven women like you. We are here to inspire, to empower, to share, and to embrace one another. We will be talking with women from different backgrounds and careers about love, family, friendship, their wins and falls, and what it took for them to live the life they love. I am your host, Claudia Noriega Bernstein, and I am so happy you're here today. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited today to have Judith Weigle with us today because we are going to talk about something that is uncommon, first of all, but it's very necessary, especially when you have kids. So before we even dig in, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Judy, and then we're going to have a very juicy conversation.
Well, thank you, Claudia. And it is so great to be here. I've loved listening to some of your other episodes. And so I like what you're doing. And thank you for including me in your program. Here's me. Circus girl turned divorce mediator. Little bit of a stretch, but not really. So my whole background is in live entertainment up until the last, I guess, 14 years. I've always produced live entertainment, either music, theater, and then I did it in corporate events when I moved to Los Angeles. I've also lived in a million different cities because I like traveling. It's a lot of fun. I like seeing how people live in different parts of the country, and people do live differently. They do. But there are certain things that connect us, and human life experiences connect us. Transformative life experiences connect us regardless of where we live. And so it's always fun for me to find that when I'm traveling and living in different places. It was a fluke how I went from live entertainment to divorce mediation. I'm also a paralegal, so I file for divorces and I mediate them. Life just has a way of moving you forward when you least expect it. And it took 3 times for somebody to say, you would make a really good mediator. You should think about it. So I'm like, okay, 3rd time's a charm. Let's think about it. First of all, what is it? I didn't know what it was. So it was explained to me what it was. And I'm like, helping people communicate through tough times, through conflict. That sounds really interesting. That sounds really challenging. I had already experienced my own divorce, so I had a relationship to divorce, and I'm a problem solver by nature. And so this just seemed to fit into my natural expression. And so here I am, 14 years in business, divorce resource, Incorporated in Los Angeles.
I love that. And I listen to you talking, and I wish I wouldn't have that when I got divorced from the father of my kids. But I am glad that you're doing that because I know, since I had experienced that in my process, how good and how positive it is to come to terms with the fact that is really nobody's fault. I mean, even if I had the same experience as you, my husband cheated on me. But at the end of the day, I had some responsibility because I didn't see the red flags. I didn't see what was going on in him. I was so focused on this perfect life that we had that when I realized that he was having a double life, I was first in shock. Then I was in denial. Then I was angry. Then I was sad. And I went through the same process we go when we lose somebody that we love, but they're dead. So the grieving process, I think, is the same. And we also, like you did, got to a point where we have to look at each other and say, hey, let's stop pointing the fingers. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry because I didn't see your red flags. I'm sorry because I handled it like that. I'm sorry because I hurt you. Like all these stories came back and forth, and we created a beautiful friendship that ended when he passed away 5 years ago. But And it's very hard for me, as you can
You
see.
are.
I think that was the most beautiful gift we could give to our girls. My girls never had to choose. They didn't have manipulation. It wasn't the kids coming home talking crap about their dad or going to their house and talk crap about me. There was no negative attention. There wasn't like, if I say this to my dad, I'm going to be on his side. And if I go to my mom, there was none of that. And when I met my current husband, that was not the relationship he had with his ex-wives. He didn't have that communication. There was a lot of conflict. And that for me was foreign because I didn't know that other people didn't have what I had. I was like, wait a minute, you don't talk to her? No, we don't. And you communicate through the kids? I never heard anything like that. Because my ex-husband would call me and say, hey, can Talia hang out with this kid? And I would say, I kind of don't like the way they have boundaries in their home, or I don't like that the mom does that or the dad does that, or whatever it was. And he never will go to Talia and say, well, I'm sorry, babe, your mom doesn't want you to go. We don't think this is a good thing for you, sweetheart. So mom and I think that you should not go and sleep over there. You can go there. I can pick you up when the play day is over, but we are not comfortable. And that was, I think, a blessing. He passed away. My oldest daughter went on his celebration of life, and he said, my parents divorced when I was 6 years old, but we never stopped being a family. And I mean, I get emotional when I even think about that because wow, I didn't have that when I was growing up. I had my mother in my ear, sometimes telling me what I had to say to my dad in the phone. You went through this process first with yourself.
All right. So I knew it wasn't a good relationship. I just knew it. Something happened from, oh, we're having such a good time dating to we don't seem to be working in sync with each other. And this is interesting because it happens to so many people. You can know that your relationship isn't great and either it's the wrong relationship or you need to do something to change it if there's hope for improvement. But if one person comes to the other and simply says, I want a divorce, those are four powerful words that just, well, ripped me apart because I wasn't expecting it, even though I knew. So when people call me up and say, oh my God, I just got served with papers for divorce. I can't believe it. We have such a great relationship. I know to not speak. I know to just let them talk. Eventually, they will get to how bad the relationship was. And what they really mean is, we didn't talk about it. So I was just blindsided with a decision that didn't include me. And that's really important in a life-changing situation. You need to talk about it so that you can both collectively decide how you want to move forward. So when you started telling me your story, you started with the grieving process. And it's very interesting, the grieving process we all go through. What you described was the grieving process for death. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the Swiss therapist, I think she was Swiss, designed this 5 steps of grieving. But when you're getting divorced, and you also said this, Claudia, the person's still living, well, until they pass away.
Yeah.
But so there's 2 other steps that you didn't say, but you actually went through. You didn't say the words, but you described the process. And that was acceptance and forgiveness. Those 2 steps, 6 and 7 steps, the 7 steps in the grieving process of divorce, really important because until you get to at least acceptance, but primarily forgiveness, you will not be able to be the best co-parents for your children. And even if you don't have children, it'll eat you alive. If you don't forgive, it'll eat you alive. What you also did was you explained that you had a level of self-awareness. So pointing the finger is never healthy because it blinds you to what your level of participation might have been, and just not seeing who this person was. Now, we can be love bombed, right? Have you heard people that, oh my God, I was just swept off my feet. He was waiting in the driveway for me when I came home. He had a bag of groceries. He was going to cook dinner. Folks, this isn't natural. People don't do this. People say, hey, what are you doing tonight? I would love to come over. Let's cook dinner together. But
Right.
the love bombing puts us in a Disney movie.
Yeah.
We are overwhelmed with Prince Charming or Princess Charming, whoever is, but mostly it's men who do the love bombing, not the women.
Mhm, mhm.
But that really doesn't exist. There is a thoughtfulness about engaging with somebody. Anybody listening, please don't be misled by the love bombing. It'll come back to bite you because as soon as the ring is on the finger and the vows are taken and the hunt is over, this person becomes a very different person.
And sometimes it's not even when they get married. Sometimes it's just when you start the relationship. So that period of time, I have one of my clients saying that, and she's dating this man for a couple of years. And she said to me, I remember he used to take me to picnics and he used to take me here and there. And now he doesn't do it anymore because we live together. And I'm like, well, let's dig into this. How have you approached this? Have you talked about it? Have you shared with him how you feel? Because sometimes that's what happened. People stay in this relationship and keep bringing that bar lower and lower and lower and lower. And then after 20 years, they said, and I never like your pajamas, or I never like that, but you never brought it up before. So how is the other person going to read your mind or correct a behavior if he's not aware that that behavior is annoying to you?
Correct. And then again, why is that behavior annoying? Simple little things. Why is it annoying? I went to a mediation convention some years ago, and there was a class that I took with an attorney and a therapist. And the whole class was about what makes 50-year relationships stick. How do a handful of people have very long-term relationships and others don't? Across the board, they did videos of these couples that had 50-year relationships around there. And each and every one of them said the same thing. Their habits just don't annoy us. We just accept them for who they are.
We try to change the other person.
Not going to happen.
Right. And
Not
I
going to
think
happen.
that has a lot to do with something that you say in your TED Talk. And I want to invite everybody to search you and listen because it was very validating for me because of my experience. But I think it also can be very enlightening for other people that are not having this experience and try to understand the process. And one of the things that you said was we have to start by forgiving ourselves. And I went through that. I have been in this journey of healing for a long, long time. And it started when I got divorced. I was the one that asked for the divorce. He didn't ask me for a divorce because he wanted to be with this girl. He was actually angry that I didn't see this fling as a fling, as it's nothing. I love you. You're the love of my life. So why are you doing that if I am the love of your life? If something is missing, why you didn't come to me? So I went first to the anger towards him, but then I was angry at myself. So I had to go through the process of forgiving myself for what I didn't know, forgiving myself for what I didn't see or didn't want to see, and forgiving myself for not really paying attention where my relationship was, where the cracks were that somebody could sneak in and tempt him in a way. Because unfortunately, men, a lot of times, I'm not going to be general, they think with their pants. They don't think with their brain. I'm going to tell you something that is so funny.
That is funny.
One of my best friends, so when my husband and I are 20 years together now, and when my husband and I got married, we did a prenuptial. And one of my friends said to me, you know what? You should put in the prenuptial. If he cheats on you, he has to give you $1 million. And I go, why would I put that in my prenuptial? I mean, right from the get-go, I'm already like uncomfortable thinking that we need to use this paper in the event we get married, we get divorced, and we're getting married. And she said to me, because think about it. If you really want him to cheat on you, he'll cheat on you. And I'm like, how ugly that is.
My
Right?
gosh, hoping he'll cheat on you for money?
Yeah, I
Or a
look at
return?
her and I go,
I
this is
never heard of
ugly.
that.
This is ugly. But then it made me think, and this is the juicy part of it, that yes, when a woman wants a guy, she won't stop for anything. And the man eventually, because of his ego, because he wants to feel wanted, because he feels that somebody's hunting him instead of him hunting the girl, he might fall into that trap. And that's horrible, right? But
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, it's true. And if it's not because it's planned per se, they cheat because something is missing and they don't know how to communicate that. they don't know how to ask for that. So they look somewhere else. And when I had my conversation with my ex-husband, we were very honest about it. And I asked him, why did you do it? Like, I want to know. And at that moment in my life, I wasn't feeling that I was not enough. I was in a different place, but I was curious. So I wasn't blaming myself. I had forgiven myself. I had healed a little bit. I mean, the healing process is not linear, right? But I was in a better place. And I asked him, I said, why? And he says, I don't know. Like, she really was
I
coming on
believe
to me.
that. I believe that. I do.
She was really coming on to me, and I could get away with that. And I did it. What he didn't think is that I was going to catch him. That's the part that he didn't take in consideration. And he never thought that I was going to walk away with 3 kids.
But hold on a minute. So before he didn't think you would catch him comes, but how do you view this act in relation to the relationship you just set up in marriage? How are you placing this? I was going to say before you explain that, I think a lot of it has to do with ego. I think a lot of it, which is very momentary, that does not stick. I think it has to do with very flattered. He's not feeling
The
fulfilled
girl
in
was
his life.
19 years old, for Christ's sake. I mean, like, what? I'm like, were you even thinking? Because at that moment we were friends, right? So we could have this kind of conversation like,
Right.
you freaking kidding me? I mean, this girl was pretty young. And he goes, I know.
Well, that's ego, but that's ego. That
Right.
makes an older man feel good. But I don't know that everybody is supposed to be monogamous. I'm not convinced that's a natural part of some people.
Right.
Yet societies in general promote monogamy. And if your
Mhm.
society is really run culturally or religiously, and in many cultures and certainly religions, monogamy is the only way. Well, maybe that just doesn't suit everybody, but you don't know it until you're in it. And so
Yes.
that's why, for me, Claudia, adultery was never a deal breaker to the extent that it's a deal breaker with most people. It was a symptom. It was a sign and a symptom that I would, like you, want to explore further. Now, in the further explanation or exploration, how do you feel about moving forward? Because that's the other side of it. Can you accept it might happen again?
Right.
Or how are you going to look at a half an hour late, him coming home or her coming home a half an hour late? Let's not put it on
Right.
men.
Right.
How are you going to look at that? Are you going to get crazy, wild, and assume? So it really does a number on the relationship and on the other person. It's a very difficult road to travel. But several years ago on my podcast, The Amicable Divorce Expert, I interviewed a gentleman, a therapist, who said this could be the best thing that happened for your relationship. It could open up a discussion that probably needed to happen that could ultimately bring you closer, or it could be the event that makes you really look at the relationship better and decide maybe this isn't the exact right relationship. So for
Right.
me, let me tell you how it happened with me and how I got to that 1 year period that you almost have to breathe through from the time you talk about divorce until you file for it.
It's so common when somebody asks for the divorce or when a couple decide to get a divorce, they immediately want to jump into the legal part and
Let's
they don't
lawyer up.
allow themselves to
Yes.
really go through the process. So they go charged with emotions to that courtroom.
That's right. And that's why I say there are 2 divorces. There's the emotional divorce, and then there's the legal divorce. And you have to go through the emotional divorce, the emotional disconnecting, which takes in all the self-reflection, all the analysis, all the grief points, acceptance and forgiveness. Then when you have that pretty much under control, now you can file, because you can't divide assets and debts. You can't talk about the kids if you're still going through your emotion. And even though after a year, and it just seems like a year is it for some reason, even after that year, and you're pretty much calmed down, okay, I'm ready to make decisions. We're not arguing anymore. We've fallen into our own life pattern. There's still going to be things that And I know when I talk about certain things with my clients that you have to talk about
Mhm.
going through the mediation or the filing, it's going to make them emotional. And that's perfectly normal. And I explained to them, you're at a very good place now. This is great to see. You're sitting next to each other. You're making decisions together. But here's the Kleenex because something is going to be brought up and it's just going to affect you emotionally and it's all okay.
There is a company, I saw it a while ago, that gives women that are about to get divorced a makeout.
Yes.
And they had videos of the faces of the husbands looking at this woman walking into the mediation room, looking like $1,000,000. And you could see in their faces the doubt, like, wait a minute, she only needed a makeover. And here I am, you're chasing other women when I had a perfectly gorgeous, empowered, sexy woman at home, but I didn't notice her anymore.
That is such a perfect thing to say. And
Mhm.
rarely do I hear anybody say that. And I've actually questioned myself if it was appropriate for me to put on a podcast episode that I just may do myself. Here are the good tips about how to mediate for women. Do not come in looking like crap. Just you put yourself
Right.
together because you will be respected more. First of all, you'll feel better.
Yeah.
When you look good, you feel good, and you need to do that. Number two, you want to look as good as possible when you ask your former spouse for whatever you're going to ask for. You want to look hot. You want to look the best possible so that they're like, okay, you can have that.
They remember,
Because they
because they
do.
remember. I started coaching teenagers, and then I've been coaching for 17 years. But then my niche many years ago was divorced women, or women that were going through a separation and then they were going to go through divorce.
Yeah.
And I will coach them what to do legally with their bank accounts and their emotion part of it and the grieving and all that stuff. But I also would coach them how to show up in those meetings. And sometimes they will say, why? And I go, first of all, because you're going to feel empowered. Second of all, because you need to remind that person who is behind that face that they got used to see every day at home. Like, you still got it, because they got to feel that somebody else is going to appreciate what they are not appreciating. And that is an amazing negotiating tool. So you have to put yourself together. Go do your roots, buy a new dress, feel good about yourself, put lipstick on, whatever it is that is going to make you feel better, nicer, sexier. I want him to look at you and go, oh my God, did I make the right decision? And they would do that. And they would call me after. And she goes, oh my God, Claudia, you should have seen the way he looked at me when I walked through those doors. And I was like, yes.
Yes, 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 and yes. And it never fails. By and large, men come in put together. By and large, few don't, depending on what their jobs are. Maybe they just don't need to. But men seem to pay a little more attention. It's too easy for women to be frazzled because women will still pick up the pieces on childcare or
Yeah.
do too much, always extending themselves, or they deal with stress differently. They wear the stress on their faces a little bit more. Now, it was never so obvious to me how stress really changes how you look. Years ago, I was filing for a couple and they were nice to one another. There were no problems. And she looked how she looked. And she was fine. She was always either going to or coming from work. And she had a professional job. So she was dressed. When the divorce was over and she had to come in for some paperwork, she looked 20 years younger. The stress was gone. And I just said, my God, you look like a new person. And she said, I'm not stressed anymore. And I said, this is a learning lesson to me, even what
Right.
stress can do for you. So even more for the women going through it, if she didn't need to mediate, her and her husband easily knew what they were doing. So they just gave me the info and I filed it and put a settlement agreement together.
Mhm.
But for the women and men who have to negotiate, need mediation, that need help from a neutral third person to work things out, you do want to look your best at all times because it is unconscious how people react to us depending on how we look. It's just unconscious.
Yeah, 100%. One thing that I heard you talk about in your TED Talk was about intention. When you talk about
Ah,
forgiving yourself and all the phases that you go through. You talk about intention. Can you dig in a little more on that?
Intention is the foundation of how you engage in conversation. The outcome of the conversation has to do with the intention with which you approach it. And people don't think about that. So if you haven't gotten over the anger yet, all you can do is speak with anger. That is this really how you want your discussion to go? Not really, unless you haven't processed yet. Now you need a therapist or a coach.
Right.
Process that way and then come back to the mediation table. Every conversation that we have that has conflict involved, we need to think about how we want to behave, how we want to engage, and what we are really looking at as the outcome. That's the intention with which we approach these conversations.
Yeah. And I think in every conversation, I was talking to my daughters not long ago, and I have 3 daughters, and one of them was really upset with the other one. And I have to say, they have a very good relationship, the three of them. They have a very strong bond, but that day, they were not the favorite people. And she was complaining, and I said to her, she said to me, she hurt my feelings. And I said, but what do you think it was her intention? Do you think her intention was to hurt
Mm.
your feelings? I heard a podcast not long ago that was that the person was saying, I don't care about your intention. What I care about is your actions. And I disagree. I feel that we need to take a step back in every relationship we have, not just with your husband or your partner, and really think about the intention of that person. The result might not even be what that person was expecting or looking for. But when you see the intention, you actually seen that person. You seen who that person is. Is this person capable to do something to hurt me or to
Right.
make me feel bad or to make me feel offended, whatever the outcome was? And if you do that, I think you're seeing that person from a place of love, not from a place of judgment. And it changed the narrative right there.
I mean, you couldn't be more spot on. Within the whole idea of intention is when you can say, my feelings were hurt when this happened. Can you please explain more about your intention? How should I read what happened? Now, what you're doing is putting everything in third person. You're not saying
Mhm.
when you did this, when you did, because that puts people on the defensive. So that
Right.
kind of goes into how you communicate. But
Mhm.
when you ask, well, why did you do that? What was your intention? Like you asked your husband, why did? When they start talking without defending themselves, but just from their position of
Information.
why.
It's just data.
Yes, exactly. It's just data. All of a sudden, everything changes. Now
Mhm.
your reaction to them changes. Your intention really wasn't to hurt me. This was really very kind of self-involved. You didn't really see, or you were feeling badly. You needed some other encouragement, something. But
Mhm.
yeah, within the intention is the opportunity to get to know somebody beyond the judgment you just exercised. And I always say, never judge a book by their cover when people come in the office, because I have been fooled twice now. I mean, so many times. Twice with two gentlemen who were plumbers. One dressed as if he was going to the job, and the other one dressed as if he was not doing the actual work but managing the company. But still plumbers, right? These are trades. Both of these gentlemen had $3 million each in the bank, in the business bank account, and they invested in real estate. They each had 6 properties as no stocks, none of that. They invested. And I just said, first of all, I can learn from you. I
Mhm.
learn from everybody
How
who's
to
there.
do that.
You tell me how to do it. I mean, do you think I'd make a good plumber? Listen, I like 3 million in the bank. I don't have 3 million in right now, but we can do that. We are so wrong in what we assume so often.
We should never assume. That was my biggest lesson of my life.
Yeah.
Never assume. I love the 4 agreements, and my favorite agreement is don't assume, because you never know. And some of us know how to camouflage our emotions so well
Yes.
that the other person don't know. what we're going through.
It just happened to me yesterday, and I held back from making an assumption because I said, Judy, just wait, just let time go by and wait till they approach you. So it was very simple. I did a mediation, and I always write mediation notes afterwards because if you don't, people don't remember exactly what went on,
Mhm,
and you
mhm,
want to keep everybody together moving forward. And for me too. I need to say, and then is this clear? Did I remember everything? Did I catch everything that you said? So we can just, okay. So in my contract, which I always send out ahead of time when I make the appointment, you can read what's in it. I highlight in yellow my fee schedule, so we're not hiding anything. And if you have any questions, if you disagree, you have an opportunity to call me before the mediation takes place. So one person read it, the other person didn't. So I said, well, let's read through it together. I don't want any surprises. I do write mediation notes and I do charge. I can't tell you how long it's going to take, but it's generally 1 to 1.5 hours. I mean, in a 2 hour mediation. So we also extended it by phone and we also extended the mediation by communicating over the notes. So anyway, I went to charge and I'm like, God, that's a little high to me even. Let me do this 3 times to make sure I charge them right because I don't want to mischarge anybody. So I sent the bill over. It was right. I didn't screw up and I didn't hear from them. And I
mhm.
thought, oh, shoot, are they mad at me? Do they disagree? Is this going to be like a sour the relationship? Because so far the relationship was really good. So I just said, you know what? Don't jump to conclusions. Let it be. They're going to have to come back anyway at some point to finish the filing, and we'll deal with it when it happens. I'm not getting worried about this. And yesterday, I got the call. So sorry we haven't been in contact. Please charge the card. I've just been overwhelmed with work and I had an extra bill to pay that was large and it had to get paid. And I'm like, no worries. Thank you. This is great. And so I've learned to hold myself back on assuming because
Mhm.
generally I'll always be wrong.
Right. I think the pausing is so important in every situation. In this world that we live, we think that we have to respond that text immediately, call back immediately, give an answer immediately, and we forget to pause. And
Oh my
sometimes that's all we need.
Oh my God, you're such a good coach, Claudia. Seriously, you're saying all the right things for the way I think and the way I work as a mediator. And no, you never have to respond immediately. In
Mhm.
fact, if you get a very terse text or email, it's best to say nothing. Let
Yes.
those words be the last words hanging out there so that they can come back to the speaker. Wait a minute, why isn't she responding? Let me reread what I
What I wrote exactly because I always said, and I say this to my kids too. Poor girls, they grew up with me, so they're coached 24/7. But I said to them, "It's not a you problem; it's a them problem.
Hmm?
You can make it a you problem if you engage, but if you don't engage, it's a he problem, a she problem, a them problem. It's not your problem." So when we become selective of the gifts that we want to receive or accept, then we gain our peace back. I
Yes.
mean, there are times that even my husband is 17 years older than me. He just had a hip surgery. I have a whole new respect for the caregivers in this world because
Mhm.
trying to juggle my publishing of the book and my own life and my girls and him was a challenge. I am a very caring person, but I would have never been a nurse because that's not my calling. And I have a lot of respect for them. But there were times that he wasn't kind. He was angry because he wasn't healing as
Pain.
fast as he
Yeah.
wanted. He was in pain. He was short or snappy, and I didn't fight back. But then I found myself relating all those emotions, right? Because we all do it. We're human. I could be a coach, but I'm still a human. So one day he goes to the doctor and they tell him, now you can drive yourself. So the man came a whole different human after the meeting and he brought me flowers and he was kind and whatever. And I'm looking at him and inside myself, I'm like, yeah, no, no, you're bringing me flowers, right? When you were a ass for 3 weeks. So he looked at me and he's like, did I do anything wrong? And I'm like, what, are you bipolar? But for a long time, I was just eating my feelings and not really understanding his intention. I was assuming I was in that
Yeah.
place that you go as a human. And
Yes.
it wasn't until I talked to my therapist that she said to me, pause. We say that to our clients, but sometimes we don't do it with ourselves. And
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. That's right. I need to
Yeah.
pause because it wasn't personal and I'm accepting a gift that I don't want. So I should have just let it go and not take it too hard and understand that he was going through his own things. But we do that all the time, more so when we have to deal with separation or divorce, because everything that the other person does, we feel is an attack to us. They want to get a divorce because they don't want us anymore. We're not good enough anymore. How dare him up there? I give him all these years. And all those emotions, we bottle them up. So I am so happy to share this episode with my audience, because if there is anybody that is going through that, they need to go to the description of the show and get in touch with you, because that will be the best gift they can give to themselves and to their kids if they have kids.
Absolutely.
Don't know how many women I coach that didn't have that and they were the kids of a divorced parent.
Absolutely. I've done this for 14 years, and I really do like mediation because it is problem solving. And it's also helping people communicate through conflict. But what I would like to do, and so I'm going to use your audience for this, and it doesn't matter what state or country they live in. I like the idea of coaching people how to mediate. I like helping people organize. I like helping people, like you said. I just love that you said you got to look good. Just got to look good.
You gotta look good.
Look good, man. You got to look good for the best results possible. And again, because you'll feel good about yourself. That's very, very important, because people don't know how to mediate. They don't know how to communicate through conflict. And there's little communication tips, just knowing, again, what I said on the show. Don't use second person pronoun you, because that puts people on the defensive. Use we. It's problem solving. We're in this together. We need to discuss how we're going to resolve these things. So when you make it a we and an us, all of a sudden you formed another little team trying to solve the challenges, the questions, the discussion about what we're going to do with our stuff and how we're going to co-parent. Yes. And then you keep it third person, it, they, when that happened. And so just little tips like this that people don't know. They
Right.
just don't know. And I just analyzed and processed and started noticing when I even use different language, I'm getting better results. And I know we're making this is centered around divorce, which is extremely important. But even when people get into like political conversations or conversations about big ticket issues in life that are divisive, these rules still apply.
Right.
Intention. How do you want to handle this?
You want to show up, right, in that conversation.
Yeah.
And be curious.
And tone of voice. We didn't say that, but implicit is the tone of voice we use. We just have to be softer so that people can hear us instead of backing away from what we say.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into this.
Oh.
And I know, but this is a good start. I mean, I think this has been extremely helpful conversation for your audience, because either you're going through divorce now, you might do it, or you have a friend, a family member. It's around us. And then if it's not divorce, it's just conflict. How do we deal with conflict?
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that we had this conversation. Thank you.
And I appreciate it so much that you were on the show. I send a newsletter every week to my audience. So if you guys want to be part of the newsletter, the information is in the description of the show. But I am going to talk about this episode. And I also want to talk about the book that you recommend. So I'm going to get a link for the book that Judith recommend for mediation and divorce. And I would love to have you back, because I think that there is so much stuff that we can still explore that can help people that really are going through a divorce, a separation, or just have conflict with other people in their life.
Absolutely. I would love to. When you get back from your whirlwind international speaking tour, Claudia, we can do that. Can I just tell people the name of the TEDx talk?
Absolutely.
It's called The Secrets to an Amicable Divorce, and it'll come up.
And I will have that link as well so they can watch you, because it was very impactful for me. Thank you so much, Judy. I loved having this talk with you. Thank you all for listening to the Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. If you like this episode, Please write a juicy comment below and subscribe to my podcast. Remember, we can only fly if we embrace each other. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and be kind to yourself.